Well, hello there. Welcome to Jack's Burrow. This is Down and Down, a rabbit hole podcast. And with me is the owner of this burrow, my buddy.
Well, hello there.
Yeah.
I'm Jack.
And we also got the other owner of the burrow, Jack's wife, Jill. Jill, how you doing?
I'm good.
Good. We are going to talk about a really weird topic today, and Jill
Did you say
is
your
here.
name?
Yeah, I said
Okay.
Jill.
I said her name.
No, yours.
Oh, yeah, I'm Buck.
He forgot.
I'm just as important, I guess. But we're going to talk about a awkward topic today. I don't really know how to. We're going to talk about sex. Let's get into it.
Wow.
Down and down the rabbit hole. Just how deep does it go? Where it stops, nobody knows. So let's go down the rabbit hole. Down and down the rabbit hole. Down and down the rabbit hole.
Okay, so this is something that's kind of been on my mind over the last few months. What?
Let's talk about sex, baby. Let's
Wow.
talk about you and me.
Salt and
Let's
pepper.
talk about.
Salt and pepper. That's crazy.
Nice.
Let's get it on. Anyways, so okay. I'll kind of preface this with the topic that led me down this rabbit hole on an individual basis. Everybody's heard of the term purity culture, correct? Or at least here, which I kind of hate that as a term.
Me too.
But even people within the church now are like, purity culture was terrible. Purity culture was terrible. And I end up finding myself to be the only person in a lot of circles that's like, purity culture was not terrible at all. True love waits was a good thing. And people are like, what do you mean? Like, it did all this bad stuff. And I'm like, no, it didn't. Individuals handled it poorly.
Yeah.
So I kind of went on a little bit of research, and I was like, why do people think that true love waits and purity culture was so bad? And one of the things that I kind of ended up landing on was that people are very critical of purity culture because it caused a lot of like psychological damage because it sexually repressed teenagers. And that's like a huge thing. Like I've
Because that's such a horrible thing.
Yeah, right. Okay,
Shouldn't
so
they
like,
be repressed?
yeah.
Mine sure as heck are going to be.
Yeah, absolutely. So first, let's talk about purity culture.
Repressed, suppressed, and depressed.
So you guys are both PKs. What is your experience, Jack? Let's start with you first because men are more important than women, and
That's true, and they don't have a ministry.
no.
So all right, let's take this all the way back to the early 90s. Well, I say early. My brother is 7 years older than I am. And so he went through the True Love Waits way before me. I was doing it in the 2000s. He did it in the 90s. And so I grew up with a lot of those DC Talk songs that we got. You got a tape. So you used to get a tape. You'd get your ring, you get a tape, and you have and I'm talking like, the old cassette tapes, and it had a bunch of songs on it. Let's see if I can remember some of them. There was DC Talk had a couple on there. One of them was, I don't want your sex for now, baby. Take a vow.
I do not remember this.
There was one that's like, Love is patient. Love is kind.
This was DC Talk?
No, that one wasn't. That was somebody else. There was a bunch of them, but it was, anyway, I used to love this tape. It was fun. Hey, I'll still rock out to this tape. Don't catch me with it. But I grew up hearing all this music, and they might not necessarily be the best music, but there's some nostalgia there. Yeah, and I'm saying that to Buck because Buck snarled his nose up.
Well, that had to do with it being DC Talk more than anything.
Well, yeah. Well,
we went down that rabbit hole already.
Yeah. So whenever the 2000s hit, I go through it myself, and I get my little purity ring, which, and I wore that thing. Actually, I think I already had one before I went through it, because I had already decided, actually, before I was ever old enough to, I signed a paper, because my dad's a pastor. We used to go to the conventions, the Baptist conventions, and you could sign they had them there.
Those little cards.
Little card that was promising that you would not have sex until you got married. I was too young.
I'm giving my virginity to my daddy.
Whoa. Dad.
You remember that Cleveland show episode? They were like trying to get all the girls to do it. Then Cleveland Jr. stood up and did it.
So I had already signed that paper. I had gone through it, and I went to church camps where they preached about it, and we got a little rose that we could give our significant other when we got married, whether you guys give it to your wives and wives give it to you.
I never got this.
Was it a real rose or a fake rose? Because that real rose.
No, it was a little fake rose.
Okay, I'm good.
And it was a little white rose, and you're supposed to give it. And every time you had sex, you were supposed to pull off a petal, and then whatever you gave her was what you had. Mine still had all its petals, but one guy stuck it in his pocket, and they all fell off in his pocket that night. So that was probably foretelling of him. But
he was in the 500.
But so I went through all this, and when I went through it, I got by the time I went through it, the actual thing, I got a CD, because cassettes were out. I had a CD of new music. Like one song said, "You never meet a girl like a queen of it," and I don't remember the whole thing, but Aquina was the girl's name. And if you ever do, then consider you blessed. Anywho, so fun fact. But those are when I went through it, and I never questioned any of it. And to this day, while there's some cheesy things about it, and I get that, I also understand that sometimes there's cheesy things are put in there to make it more fun or to try to relate to youth, and that doesn't bother me. I don't think that anything that I experienced or was taught ever made me feel repressed or suppressed in any kind of way. I think that they were teaching me as best they knew how to control my urges as a teenage boy, where, and that's not always successful in my endeavors, I'm sure, but because I was a teenage boy,
right?
But there was a holy fear of the Lord placed in me during that time that I was not getting in school going through sex ed.
Right.
So I don't know if I answered your question.
Yeah, no. I think that's a great answer. Jill, what about you?
I remember the first time was in 6th grade, and we had like a Sunday
Not when you
school.
had sex.
I know, right? I think I've literally been in the youth group for 5 minutes, and we had a Sunday school assembly about True Love Waits. And I remember there was a cross, and it had nails nailed in it, and we were supposed to go take a nail, and that was us promising to stay pure.
Was you supposed to give me the nail? Because you didn't get my rose, and I didn't get your nail.
The nail was not for you.
I got nailed by you, but
just sit on my little dresser to be a reminder.
Hope she didn't use that nail. That'd have been
jail, painful. Into the head. Anybody that came near me.
That's not where I was thinking it was going to get jammed, but
yeah. So that's my first memory of True Love Waits. I didn't have the cassettes and CD. I missed out on all that. I'm
For
sorry.
shame.
But as I got older, I did get a ring at a different youth event.
And we swapped our rings in our wedding.
We did. They were always, it felt like they were always at like summer camp and winter retreats and stuff, like doing some kind of little spiel about True Love Waits.
That was a lot of.
It never bothered me. I don't know.
Let me ask you a question.
People are looking for something to be bothered by. I think people are looking for something to be bothered by.
So I'll before I ask questions, I'll kind of go through my experience with it. I didn't ever go through like a True Love Waits seminar or anything like that in church.
That
like it was
a lot.
I don't know why.
Such a man whore.
Yeah. I mean, the three of us were all virgins when we got married.
Yeah.
So like, I mean, the first people to talk to me about this were my parents. Like, hey, sex before marriage is not what God wants for you, so don't do that. And that was pretty early. I want to say I was probably in like third grade. Because I was starting to have questions, and I think I was always a very drawn to like sexual stuff in media. And I think maybe that's why that kind of got brought up at a young age. I remember one of the first things that I ever saw on TV that I was like, huh. And my mom clocked it like right then, because she was right there with me. And,
that's going to be Arlie.
Yeah.
Our youngest, that'll be him.
Oh my gosh.
I can see that. I'm not going to say quotes from this kid.
You can say quotes.
Oh.
Coney,
I'm not going to say this quote.
Coney still to this, he has interests in girls, but then it's not very, there's nothing like ever sexual
kind of thing. Yeah.
And it's not ever sexual. It's very like tame. It's like crushes and stuff.
I was already looking at porn at Coney's age.
And Bunny, our girl, has told me multiple times. She even told me tonight that she is not getting married because I was like, I'll pray. I pray for that who they're going to marry, and I even said it in my prayer with her tonight. She was like, I'm not, and she interrupted my prayer and said, "That's not going to happen." And I was like, "You might want to get married."
Oh, good.
She's like,
I'm okay with this.
I was like, but I was like, you might want to get married when he's going to be ugly. I said, you want to marry somebody ugly? She said, nope, I'm not getting married. I said, but you might want kids. I don't want kids. That's too much.
I can 100% see her saying that.
But that baby child will work.
But that boy that baby boy is a flirt.
I love my wiener.
Yep.
Yes.
He said that.
I got a big one.
It's big. And how he knows his is big, it is. But how does he know?
I guess like when you're that young, if it's bigger, it's better. No matter what it is. So yeah, like I mean, so in like student ministry and that kind of stuff, we would talk about it. We would talk about the kind of stuff. I remember watching a video on it one time. And they were kind of going through it, and there was a woman in the video, and she told the story of like how she had sex before she was married. And I remember thinking that's weird when she said this, but she said I had to wear a blue dress to my wedding because they wouldn't let me wear a white dress because it was a sign of purity. And I was like, that's kind of extreme, but it wasn't like they were advocating for this. It wasn't like, well, make sure if you do have sex, you ain't going to be able to have a white dress at your wedding. Nobody ever said that. And like,
things are different now. That used to really be a thing.
It was a symbol for like,
and I've seen that video you're talking about.
But like, so you remember that video?
Yeah, but that was in the 90s, and she was a little older then. So she was
old. Well, yeah, she was telling.
Yeah.
So this I want to say she may have actually been married in like the 80s.
Yeah,
so like, regardless, like the big thing is that it was something that we all kind of went through. Now, questions for you. Who was the sexual responsibility put on for you guys in your experience?
You talking about like in church, like being taught?
Whenever you're taught, don't have sex until you're married. Who was all of the like responsibility put on to say no to it?
So
this isn't a trick question. I just want
I
your
know it's
experience.
not.
I'll let you answer first, Jill, and then I will answer.
I feel like my youth pastors were really good at saying, for the girls, yes, you do need to say no. But there was a lot put on the guys that, like, it's your job as a guy to protect females. And if you take this from them, they never get it back. And you also are going to have to tell your wife one day.
Yep.
They were like really honest. And
Yeah.
I didn't have the experience that I know a lot of other girls say that they had,
Yeah.
where like it was just all on them, like you don't need to be a slut and that kind of thing. They were kind of more slut shamed than purity explained.
Yeah.
I didn't have that experience. I feel like my youth pastors were really good about being equal and like it takes two to tango. You both have responsibility in this. But if anything, I think they were harder on the guys. Maybe it's because they were men. And maybe that's why it is good to have like a male youth pastor. But yeah, they put a lot on the guys.
Jack?
Yeah. That was exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah.
So I feel like they put it on who was in the room, because they couldn't control the people that were going to be out in the world who you were going to come into contact with. So girls, you don't need to dress in a way that is going to cause a man out in the world we don't know how he's going to control his eyes. But guys, you're in this room, whether you're dating a girl in this room or you're dating a girl out in the world, your job is to protect her for whoever she's going to be with, because you're more than likely not going to be marrying whoever you're dating now. And so I say they put it on the person who was in the room. And I think that I felt like they did a good job of doing that.
Yeah. I had the exact same experience as you guys. And I want to clarify that we all went to different churches. As a matter of fact, Jill went to churches in different states than Jack and I did. So that I didn't know exactly I knew, Jack, I knew what you were going to say. Jill, I did not know what you were going to say. But I want to say that to exhibit a point that shows that this wasn't everywhere.
Right. Yeah.
The whole like girls got all the sexual responsibility, all of the pressure, all of the don't do this stuff. That was not always the case, because we have three examples.
Do you think that sometimes the ones who think that they had it all on them was because it was on the people in the room, but they're only hearing it for them because it was tailored for them at that moment?
I think yes, and like
maybe not always,
100% of the time, but I do think that absolutely that is true for a lot of the situations.
Because a lot of people they only see problem. There's so many people in the world that you can have a conversation with them. They're only going to hear what they want to hear.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or they're only going to hear the thing that offends them
or problematic to them.
And they forget the rest of it.
But if we were divided, I will say this: if we divided up to talk about this, girls and boys, it was always females or female leaders that addressed us as girls.
Yes.
It wasn't. And I think a lot of people I hear, they're like, well, my youth pastor shamed me as a female. And I'm like, I don't buy that, because
maybe he knew you was going to grow up to be a whore.
Maybe he did.
Now, I do think it did happen. Like, I think there are too many cases of saying that this happened for it to not have happened at all.
Have happened some.
But I will say that I also think that there is a bit of a bandwagon
I agree.
aspect to this
I'll
claim.
also say, I was going to let you finish.
Oh, I finished.
I also say, I said that tongue in cheek, joking. Maybe he knew he was going to grow up to be a whore, but there might be some truth to that as well.
Or you already were at the time.
That's what I mean. Like, he could tell that you were either very boy crazy, there was something going on. understand that as foster parents of teens, because we have girls that are very boy crazy, and some have tried to sneak off and talk to their boyfriends at night with
Yeah.
no clothes on. And we
With
have
no
to,
clothes on.
we
Oh.
have to make stipulations for that. We have to make
Yeah.
rules for that.
Yeah.
And so-
and I'll say this, like, Jill, you said that in a lot of instances, it seemed like they may have even come down harder on the boys, which I felt that.
Yeah.
I was brought up feeling like the boys had more of the responsibility to refrain from this, simply because, and I'm going to throw this out there because it's what everybody knows, because we are more visually inclined.
Right.
We are more like,
And more
hey, we see
sexually
this,
minded.
and we are more sexually minded. So I felt like I had more responsibility put on me to avoid it, to be better. I didn't
to
feel
protect
like
them, because girls were
Yes.
painted as more innocent. They weren't
And
always, but
right.
Yeah.
but
No, I've always said this: if something
we got
happens,
the pole and they had the hole, and
if something happens, like anything that ever happens to a girl, like that she didn't ask for, is never that girl's fault. It's the person who did it to her. It's her fault.
right.
But do your best
Like I
to
said, we
protect
got the
yourself.
pole and they got the hole.
Yeah.
And,
do your best
you know,
to protect yourself. Do your best to make sure that this isn't thrown upon you when you don't want that.
Like make wise choices too.
Yes, make wise choices.
Yeah.
Like never shaming you for any bad thing that happened to you, but try your best to make sure that it doesn't happen to you.
Yeah.
And so like and obviously we're talking about SA in that scenario, but also we know that in relationships boys do pressure girls into having sex with them. Don't date the guy.
Yeah.
Don't date that guy. Like you're not going to marry this person probably. And if you lose him, fine. Like you don't really love him. You don't know what love is at this age. He doesn't love you.
I don't know what love is.
You are infatuated with each other. That's what it is. It's lust. It's maybe
We've had to have
it's
those
lust.
conversations too with these teenagers.
And so like, but I will say, Doe works at a Christian school. And they handle things a lot differently than I experienced growing up. When it comes to this issue. I'll give two examples. The first example, there was a student, and she was kind of a boy crazy student, and Doe knew this girl pretty well.
I want to clarify, if we have any new listeners, that Doe is
my
Buck's wife.
Yes. And she was one of her students, and she got caught sexting with another student in the school. That was a boy, obviously. They got caught sexting. They both got in
not
trouble.
necessarily anymore.
They both got in trouble. She got expelled. The boy got suspended for a couple days.
Yeah,
He was the one that instigated it. He was the one that asked for it, but she was the one that got expelled because she was the one that sent the pictures or whatever that was sent.
Was he an athlete?
I don't remember. Maybe.
I feel like you might have told me he was an athlete.
Like, this was a while back.
You told me this story.
And I'm like, I don't think either one of them should have been expelled at all. Like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
But if you're going to do it,
it needs to be both.
It needs to be both. But neither one of
As we both say the same thing.
Neither one of them needs to be expelled because, like, what are you going to? Okay, they did this thing. Let's remove them from a place where we can share the gospel with them in a way that teaches them this is not what's best for you. Nope. You broke the rules.
Or suspend them with the warning that if it happens again, they will be expelled.
Yeah, sure. I still think that even shouldn't be the case, but like, they've made some calls like this, and like, there's another instance where they had an assembly about dress code.
Oh boy!
They told all the boys to leave.
Oh boy!
And then told the girls how they have to dress modestly.
They didn't to
No.
address the guys wearing too
Nope.
tight of pants
Nope.
or wearing
Not short,
sagging
not too short of
pants?
shorts. Not talking about don't have your shirts off. Don't have like not a single thing. Um, I don't think that's cool, personally.
No, that's problematic.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm going to kind of sum up my whole thoughts on sex. Again, Jack, Jill, and I, and Doe, we were all virgins when we got married. It was a thing that we were adamant about, and we made mistakes. We made some sexual mistakes, but we weren't like spiritually virgins. We literally all never had sex, so we got married. And I think biblically, there's more of an argument when it comes to sexuality and sex that men absolutely have more responsibility on them to be the ones that steward this virtue. Just by the way that God sets the family up and the way that men act as pastors of their family, and just an overarching more amount of responsibility given to men in the church, in Scripture. I feel like we're the ones that we're told will be held doubly accountable for things that we say when we pledge ourselves to things. Like, I feel like there's a theme. Hey, you're the one that's supposed to make this not happen, not the woman. I mean, am I wrong about that? What do you guys think?
No, I mean, we agree.
No, I mean, and we've talked about like if our sons decide to be promiscuous and that girl's daddy comes a looking for them, we ain't gonna hide them.
Right.
We just gonna let them have them because they shouldn't have been out there messing around.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
Now,
actions have consequences.
I'm not gonna shame my daughter if she does end up doing
Sure.
it or whatever. I will tell her, like, this isn't what we're gonna do. There will be consequences to it.
Yeah.
No, we're gonna walk her down the street and we're gonna say shame and ring the bell.
Yeah.
Put an A on her.
Yeah. Now, I have told, jokingly, but I've told one of my foster daughters, I was like, because she is kind of boy crazy, I was like, you're not going to be doing this kind of stuff especially while you're living in my house. And she had a boy talking to her at the time. I said, I'm just letting you know, and he can hear this now. I will cut his dick off. And and so I will say I put more on him than I do on her as well. I mean,
yeah, because boys are very influential in the relationship, and girls will succumb to what they say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
because girls want to be seen as beautiful, and a lot of times,
and loved.
And I have noticed that teenage girls a lot of times will fall for whatever guy's telling them to feel that.
Yeah, Jack. So as the pastor, tell us why sex before marriage is sinful. Like, tell us the biblical description of that.
Well, there's plenty of scripture that talks about, that you should, that sex is meant for a man and a woman, that a marriage, first of all, it specifies that marriage is to be between a man and a woman. And then there's scripture, and I will have to pull that up to make sure that I give you the correct scripture. I don't want to mislead. That talks about how sex is supposed to be for a man and a woman, for a married couple, they don't withhold it from each other. There's outliers. There's rules to how this is done. Even laid out in scripture. I believe let's see if I can I think 1 Corinthians 7 gives out some kind of proper like boundary for like the physical intimacy, because temptation is to like sexual immorality is strong. So each man should have his own wife, and her own husband. I think Hebrews 13 talks about honoring. Let like the marriage be honored amongst us, and let the marriage bed be undefiled, which means that puts that stipulation. It's just for these two people. Marriage is laid out for them, and now we're able to look at it and we're able to see things that we just like we've talked about with another I think in another podcast where we talked about like the food laws. They didn't always maybe understand everything then, but now we can see there's sexually transmitted diseases.
Yeah.
There's also it is having sex. There's always some feelings that get tied up for at least one of the people, and it typically does tend to be women, because women are more emotionally driven.
Sure.
And have that kind of a tie versus
the intimacy for them is more about the emotional connection than the physical.
and exactly, and that right. Thank you for putting it that way, because that's what I meant, but I couldn't think of the words that I was wanting to say. So thank you, that was eloquently put. I appreciate that. That's what I mean. It is more about the intimacy, where for a man it can mean for the pleasure. Sure. But there's still an intimacy there for them as well. And so God laid all of this out, and it also represents the marriage bed, the married couple. It represents God and his people, his church as well. And so there's so much that's tied up in here. We represent the bride to God, representing the groom, and it has to be, holy. And he even goes back in the Old Testament. You have Gomer, who was
and Hosea.
Gomer was a prostitute, and Hosea was told to marry her. The whole idea was to show how people were prostituting themselves away from God.
Yes.
And so it showed the purity there is to present your wife pure, and it puts it in scripture present your wife pure, just as God would present his bride pure, and he wants to purify her and make sure that she's holy. And so there's a lot of implication that goes in there.
And I think the reason why there's so much emphasis in scripture on sex within the bounds of marriage is because, now I don't want to put words in God's mouth, but you kind of hit on a little bit of this. Sex causes complications.
Yeah.
You talked about STDs, but let's just go back to high school for a minute, with people that we knew were sleeping around and that kind of stuff. It always caused so much hurt.
Yeah.
And
it was always the craziest ones.
Yes. And like we've seen people be cheated on. We've seen marriages fall apart. We've seen people get pregnant when they're not ready. There are all these reasons why, and we see this stuff with means of avoiding it.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
But sex is an emotional thing for a lot of people. And I'll say this too, while it is about a huge aspect of it is about physicality for men, I do not believe that any man can remove emotion from sex. Yeah. There may be less emotion for them than there are for women, but you hear, like, you always in TV and that kind of stuff, and you even hear this in like Reddit stories and stuff like that. A man had an affair, and they're like, it didn't mean anything or whatever. It did, because you are connecting with this person on the most intimate level you can. There is something that it meant emotionally to a degree. I do not think that casual sex is ever a thing that can go without complications.
I think it can be lesser for them than for women, but that's why I even said it's even there for them. But there are some that are just seeking pleasure.
Yeah.
But even still, it gets complicated. Like you
Yeah,
said.
I think even just the seeking pleasure, there will be some emotional like connection that is brought through that, and people may want to act like, oh no, there's not, but
If
I
there's
just
not,
don't,
then
I
I
don't
think it's
believe
because
you.
they're not emotionally healthy.
Yeah, well,
people.
I think you're lying to yourself.
No, I know. I mean, I can see
Like-
what she's saying, because there are some people who may have issues with that, and they need to get that stuff.
Yeah, they're just numb
Corrected.
because of some trauma they've had in their life.
Well, that's
They're
that
just
is
not
a
healthy.
mental disability.
Exactly. That's what I mean. Like they have
and,
some kind of mental.
So kind of
Saying that they
so that's our
exist.
that's kind of our whole clarification on what we believe how we should approach sex. But now let's talk about the flip side of that, and like why people are claiming purity culture was so bad and all the damage that it caused and that kind of stuff. So again, I touched on this at the beginning. Sexual repression is such a huge aspect of why people say it was such a bad thing.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And we all kind of said the same thing, that I was like, are we really going to use this as a reason of why it was bad? Because I will make the bold statement here now that sexual repression is an absolute must for society to function.
Mhm.
Like not just Christianity, but society. Our society bases laws around mandating sexual repression. We do that. It is a necessary thing. So let's define sexual repression for a second. Sexual repression, this is on Wikipedia. You can say it's not reputable, but it is absolutely reputable because they put their sources in there. Sexual repression is a state in which a person is prevented from expressing their own sexuality or sexual orientation. Sexual repression can be caused by an emotional conflict, and it goes on to kind of go into like, here's how people are sexually repressed.
We have a friend. We all three know a person who claims this, who has a one-woman show about
Oh yeah,
how much I guess she wanted penis. I don't know.
yeah, horny
That's
millennial
very
or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sexual repression is not a bad thing. There can be a like an abuse of sexual repression. Sure, people can try to enforce sexual repression on other people through manipulation or whatever. I don't think that purity culture was necessarily an abuse of sexual repression. I think some people, the only real thing in purity culture that was bad was there were people telling girls that they bore the brunt of all the sexual responsibility, and that also kind of came with a twofold thing where sex was demonized, period. Like to the point of some people were so like, sex is bad, sex is bad, sex is bad. And when they got to the point where they could have sex, they couldn't enjoy it because they associated it with being bad. I never experienced that. I was always told sex is great. Sex is great when you're doing it right.
Yeah.
And so yeah. Thoughts on that before we kind of go further into it.
Yeah, I think that would be the one point I would concede to them, is that, and this was not necessarily my experience, like you said, because my youth pastors were like, yeah, sex is awesome when you're married and you put sex where it's supposed to be in that relationship, and you have this person that you love and you're married to and committed to, then sex is exactly what it's supposed to be. And it is a great thing. Now, I will say that I do feel like in general, sex is not talked about enough in the church.
Mm-hmm.
It's talked about when you're a youth, because they are telling you don't do it until you're married.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think that it is talked about enough in the congregation once you get to big church for the married couple.
When is the Song of Solomon series, guys?
Okay, right? Because we have a whole book in the Bible that's basically the sex book of the Bible.
It talks about oral sex in that book.
Literally. but we never talk. It's like so taboo that we can't talk about it. But there are so many sexual references in the Bible. And it's like God created it. He meant it to be a good thing. And there's also a lot of times, I think y'all talked about this, where God talks about it in the context of the covenant relationship of the church and Jesus, or back in the day of Israel and God. But yeah, we really avoid that conversation, like the plague in church, talking about sex. So I think if there is a mistake that's made, that's it, is we avoid what do you do when you're out of high school and you are newly married and now you can have sex, but you know nothing about it. Because
have you guys seen this? I don't know the name of it, but it's this guy, this black guy. He poses as a student pastor who's recently married, and he walks into the hotel with his wife, and he's like, "Oh man, look at that bed. What are we gonna do?" And then it cuts to him being outside on the balcony talking to his pastor. He's like, "Pastor, I don't know what I'm going to do." She expects, and he's like terrified of it. And then pastor's like, "You're going to be okay. Just go in there." And like, it's, and so, yeah, I think it's funny because that is true. And I did, whenever I was on staff full time at a church, we talked about it quite a lot, which is one really positive thing that I'll say about it. They were really good about making sure we talked about sex within marriage and all the stipulations that the pastor actually did do a series out of Song of Solomon. And that's that, because I'd never really in depth read Song of Solomon up to that point. And that's where I found out that oral sex is actually talked about in scripture.
Not explicit. Like it doesn't.
No, it is poetic, but we know that's what it's talking about.
So, and I looked it up so that we would have it, because I knew this was.
It doesn't just say, it doesn't just say it, but it's pretty clear.
So, chapter 4, verse 16. It talks about, "Let my beloved come into his garden and taste its choice fruit."
Yeah. So we're talking about.
That's the woman saying that.
If you don't know the female oral sex, that's what we're talking about, which is even more taboo.
Yeah. So
we don't want to get into the fact that his wife was a black woman either.
The song was, these were written, and it was, part of it was sung by men and part of it was sung by women there. And then there's part that are a multitude of women come in and sing and stuff. So it's, it's written in such a way that they're telling this kind of a story of their love and stuff. But
let's rewrite it as like an operetta.
Oh no,
the church.
I just imagine that the multitude of women are his other thousands of wives,
like concubines. And we'll perform it.
How many? He had over 1,000 wives,
church musical, and then it's all about love, and then we start singing it, and it's "Come into my garden and taste my fruit."
And then the woman also says, "I delight to sit in his shade, and his fruit is sweet to my taste." And then he says,
"I really hope they bathed."
And then he says in chapters, I think they talk about bathing in it, don't they?
I think they do. I think they do.
Okay.
So that was hers.
They talk about her mountains too, right?
Chapter
or something like
4,
that.
Yeah. Chapter 4 and chapter 2, and then in chapter 7, he says, "May your breasts be like the clusters of the vine, and your mouth like the best wine." So, I mean, he put them in his mouth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Which, absolutely do that. I recommend it. But I wish I could do it every day. I wake up that way.
See that the Lord is good. But,
but yeah, I agree. I guess societally, it's just such an uncomfortable topic and people get offended at the idea of talking about it, but scripture has something to say on it, not only in a restrictive way, but in a guiding way of like, be free with it. I remember one of the first conversations I had within church, one of the volunteers at the church that I was going to at the time said that oral sex was a sin. And I was like, I was only like in 7th grade, mind you, but I was like, I don't know if I believe you. And she was wrong. I would actually say in marriage, oral sex is necessary.
Maybe she's getting that from the verse that says, well, no, that goes against it, actually, that it's better to spill your seed in the belly
Yeah.
than on the ground.
So I think more than likely what she was trying to do was trying to communicate to a bunch of teenagers, hey, this isn't okay. This isn't a loophole. I think that's what she was trying to do, but she just did it poorly.
You should have just said that.
Yeah. But and then I eventually did end up like having people clarify that this is not just about like going all the way. It's about lust and that kind of stuff. And I had one great pastor talk about orifices, but
yeah, that was the one time that we did sit under
the same person telling us the story.
I had invited you to this thing, and I didn't know it was going to turn into that. And he starts talking about where he stuck his thing in the orifices, and we were like, he was our youth pastor. He
defined sex as putting your junk in a hole, any kind of hole, the hand hole, like when your hand forms a hole,
an orifice.
Man, I hadn't heard this sermon before.
It was great. It was great.
And he was a real mature pastor. And then he talked about how he one time he put it in a girl and then he pulled it right out and he felt bad.
He said, I chickened out, guys.
And he told us,
well, you already did it.
And he like,
you lost it already.
And Buck and I are sitting there like this. Just
keep in mind, this guy was a student pastor and he was only a year older than Jack at the time.
Yeah, he wasn't much older than me. In fact, he was dating your girlfriend's sister at the time. Yeah, I was trying to think if I was dating her at that point, but
I think you were.
He did date my girlfriend's sister, and he and so it's weird.
Awkward.
But swinging it back to the necessities of sexual repression. Sexual repression is like we have to have it. Sexual repression is the way that we know that we can't implement sexual assaults. We know that like you don't. I mean, I know a lot of people are going against this now, but most people would say that polyamory is not okay. Most people would, unless you live in a gigantic city out west or something like that. And most people would say that pedophilia is bad.
Definitely not.
I say most because I feel like within the next few years, people are going to start saying, as long as it's consensual, it's fine. I know that sounds ridiculous, but people are saying it now, and while they're very few, things like that tend to grow.
I mean, I guess they did marry at like 12 in the Bible, but
yeah,
they also didn't live as long.
They did not.
That's true too. Bestiality, most of us frown upon that. Like, these are all things like we know, like we have to. So why is it that when the church takes a stance on it's not okay for you to have sex with anybody other than your spouse, why is all of a sudden that's bad sexual repression? Like it doesn't make any sense. You're not enforcing it upon people who don't share the same beliefs as you. All you're doing is making sure that you're protecting kids who are not fully developed to make decisions. They're like they don't have their full cognitive maturity. Like, and you're telling them, hey, while you're under your parents' roof and your parents take this stance, you're going to listen to your parents because they know better than you on this
Yep.
on this subject. And I don't care what anybody says, they freaking do. Most parents do. Most parents have gone through what you're going through. And like it's just wild. It's just
I
wild.
think people just want an excuse to do what they want to do.
Yeah.
And they also want a reason for why it was okay for them to have done what they did.
Yeah. I can't tell you how many times growing up, and Jackie, I think you experienced this too, but Jack and I used to work at Hollister. And
All three of us did.
Too.
oh yeah, you were there. You were there. God, I forget. It was such a short time that you were there.
It was
And
a year.
I never worked with you though. Like I
We
almost
sometimes
never
did.
worked with you. So Hollister, if you worked there, it didn't necessarily draw the most wholesome of people most of the time.
Wow.
But we were three wholesome kids working in Hollister.
Mhm.
And so like we got there and I was pretty evangelical about being a virgin and proud of it. Like I was like, most guys don't do this. It feels like I have more self-control than a lot of guys exhibit. I was well pleased that I was
you
going
wasn't.
down this road. Shut up. But I remember there were at least 4 girls within the walls of that institution that I told that, and they were like, "Oh, I would have been, but I was raped." So nonchalantly, and it felt so inauthentic, and there was no weight to it. Whenever I was like, I don't believe you, and you were bringing so much shame to girls who actually were.
Went through this.
I experienced the same thing. So in high school, there was a girl who claimed that she was, but well, let me say this. She told me that she had sex at first. And when I didn't know at the time that she had had feelings for me. So when she found out that that was a stipulation, like I didn't date girls that were not virgins because I was saving myself. She backtracked and was like, "Oh, I was raped. I was raped." And I was like, "Oh, really?" And I didn't believe her. And because I didn't believe her, she was like, I was the bad guy. But it was the same thing. Like I felt the same. I was like, "This is you. How horrible for you to just claim this to try to make you whatever." But
yeah, and I think that experience ends up informing like how I feel about like false accusations and stuff now.
Yeah, right.
Like, because
it does take it away from people who have been through something and are saying
and
it makes
their actual experience dealing with it hard to be credible. Because
that's what I mean. Yeah.
Like so many false accusations happen now. So it's like, oh, well, when a woman does come out and say it, our gut reaction is to be like, a lot of people's gut reaction is to be like, no, that's not true necessarily. Whenever we should be treating it with a heavy amount of like, maybe this did happen. I cannot stress how offended I would get whenever I would experience that. Just a girl to be like, I would have been because it felt like she was all of a sudden embarrassed that there was a guy in front of her that was intentionally doing it, and she did intentionally saving themselves for marriage, and she couldn't do that. That's what it felt like. I'm not saying that's what it was, but
no, I think probably to a degree it probably was.
Yeah.
And
why be embarrassed if you're going to make that choice? Own it.
And we had opportunities. Jack and I were not incels at all. Like we had opportunities. It was not easy Like, I'm pretty sure there were opportunities for both of us within that job. Like,
Yeah, it happened in the back room all the time.
yeah, and I think, like Jill, I think you absolutely had opportunities within that job too, because I remember there had to be
No,
a
because they
particular.
didn't like me because they.
No. There was a particular person I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The one
That Jack had to go have a talking to
and
with.
told him don't ever do that again.
And it's funny because I was friends with this guy, but he and I also had a similar situation about a different girl that we were both interested in. And sexual repression is a must. Like we
Especially
have to
among
have.
teenagers.
Yeah.
Especially among teenagers.
How many people do you know that got pregnant before they graduated high school?
A lot.
I think I graduated with 3 pregnant girls. And I remember one walking up on the stage like a big old butterball, like, and she was a small girl.
Not
like but she was, as a pregnant girl, she got real big, and I was like, well, dang. But
we didn't have that at my high school, but I think I only remember 2 girls ever being pregnant while I was in high school, but I think it was because it was a wealthy high school, and I think the girls that did get pregnant, I think they terminated the pregnancies.
That's gross.
Yeah,
That's
it is.
bad.
Or they were on birth control.
I had several who, when they graduated, they already had kids that they had them earlier in high school. So those kids are now well into their 20s, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not even just actually actively doing it. Like, it's important for kids to not have access to porn. Like, that's sexual repression too. Like, being a chronic self-pleaser is a form of sexuality. And like,
but thinking about having children, they are now tied to this person that they dated in high school and have no feelings or anything for.
Forever.
They are forever tied to that person because of a decision that they made because they wanted to be grown.
Yeah. And so I think the claim it was damaging because it sexually repressed people is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard.
Yeah.
And I think it's wild that psychologists are some of the ones that make that claim while also like condemning other sexuality, like things that people deal with. And so it's like you get to pick and choose. But no, what it really boils down to is that people target Christianity. That is what it boils down to. And I mean, we're not the only faith that does that. I mean, pretty much all the Abrahamic faiths make this claim. Sure, like nobody's going after Islam for making the same claim. And
it's a more intense repercussions.
And it is doing exactly what they're saying that True Love Waits culture did. Like, I mean, they predominantly put all that responsibility on the woman.
Yeah.
Like, I think because the men who are martyrs, they get the 40 virgins or whatever.
Yep.
That they get to.
But women have to live this life in a hijab.
Yeah. And
that's all they get.
But that's okay. But like, that's okay. But
don't look at the hair.
Yeah.
Too sexy.
But Christians saying, hey, sex before marriage is bad, that's sexual repression, controlling, and manipulative. And I'm not trying to downplay that there was a I don't know how big it was. I'm sure there was a lot of them, but I don't think it was the majority of them. There were people that
it's sexy to be what is it, like everybody
absolutist?
Well, no, like everybody wants to have been
a victim.
Yeah, essentially. That's not necessarily the words that I'm looking for, but yeah, everybody wants to have been a victim at some point. They want to be victimized or offended by something at some point because or oppressed. That's the word I'm looking for. Everybody wants to have been oppressed.
And it's sad reality that being an oppressed group of people is something that you want for yourself.
So this is along the same lines, but I think it just goes to show that, like we were talking about earlier, what Scripture says, there's a reason for it. And I think you mentioned STDs being one reason why God would restrict, that. But this is along the same lines. Did you know that in couples who cohabitate before they're engaged, before they're in a committed relationship, their divorce rates are significantly
higher.
Significantly.
I think that I feel like there's a statistic for if you have sex before you get married, your likelihood of divorce is significantly higher.
For this statistic, it's 30 to 48%. That's almost 50% more.
All of that's likely. True. I've heard all that before.
30 to 48%.
More likely to end in divorce.
Of 50% of all marriages.
Yes.
Half of all the marriages that fail, almost pretty much, which is half of marriages. That's an insane number, man. God
sets forth rules for a reason.
And don't be stupid when it comes to what she just said. If you live in together, you sleep in together.
Okay.
I don't believe you. If you try to say we're not screwing, I don't believe you. I just don't.
I don't either. The temptation is going to be there. Great. It's too hard. Yeah.
You're in a master bedroom, your underwear is in the same drawer, you're taking shower in the same shower.
And I'll tell you this, Jill and I actually had an apartment before we got married together, but that we were both paying for, but I did not live in it.
Yeah, for 2 months.
For 2 months, we went ahead and had it because when you were fixing to get married, she moved into it. She needed an apartment, and my parents had an empty house, because my dad was my dad was a pastor and he lived in a pastorate, but they owned their old house. I was living in that other house, and I didn't move in until after we were married.
Yeah. I started renting a duplex before Doe and I got married. And I'll say this, Doe and I did really, really well in our relationship, avoiding lust all the way up to the point to where we got engaged. When we knew that we were going to get married, it became increasingly more difficult.
Jill fell asleep at my house one night because she was really kind of consoling me. I was struggling with some stuff, and she had been kind of consoling me there, and I fell asleep, and then she fell asleep, and my brother came to the house and found us, and then she left, but past my dad on the way there, and so that was a hard discussion that had to be had, but nothing happened, and I had to explain, nothing happened. She fell asleep here. Well, the parents of evil, and so
the parents of evil,
and so I was like, well, it wasn't on purpose anyway. And that was the time I had to move home for a while.
That was for 2 weeks, I think.
Yeah, but they wouldn't let me stay there, which was also when I had that wreck because I was having to drive back and forth to college from the town that they'd moved to early in the morning. But anyway, yeah, that happened.
I don't think I remember that being the reason why you started. You had to go back home. I don't think you told me that.
It wasn't for real long.
I remember that happening. I remember.
And it was the fall before we got engaged.
Yeah. But
I did not know Doe at this time.
Yeah, you did.
But I don't think so because you guys got engaged not long after we started dating.
But you knew her. Yeah, because you met at our Halloween party.
So this would have been right around that time.
It would have been after that.
Well,
It would have been like in
Halloween's in the
November.
okay.
It would have been like the end of November, something like that.
So
that
real
was
close.
Part of that was
Real
part of
close.
that was
But-
part of the thing we wanted to introduce y'all.
Yeah.
But keep in mind, we did like at that Halloween party, we barely talked and didn't talk for months.
Yeah.
So like I would still say that I didn't really know her. I knew who she was. But we didn't really start.
And then her best friend and I helped y'all start text for like. Remember we tell y'all what to text, and the joke was that I won't say her name that we were dating even though we weren't because I was with Jill and she was with her now husband.
Yeah.
But the joke is because we were at like Cyrano de Bergerac-ing it. But anyway, well, that was a fun time. But you're right. I mean, I'm going to say that you're right. It is necessary. Sexual repression, suppression, whatever, however you want to put that, is necessary because if not, everybody's just going to go around sleeping with everybody. It's going to be chaos. There's going to be diseases, and there's going to be a lot of hurt feelings, and people are going to hate each other. Everything would crumble. There has to be some holding yourself accountable. But that's the problem is the people don't want to do that. And you find that these are also the same people who are detransitioning, what's the word I'm looking for?
Deconstructing?
Deconstructing,
Yes.
thank you. That are deconstructing. It's a lot of the same people.
Yeah. Because
And
a
then
lot
the
of
whole other Robert
deconstructing people revolve their deconstruction around sexuality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that is by far the most important reason why you have like progressive Christianity and all sexuality issues. Oh, we can have sex however
There's
much
a
we want
reason
and with
why the
whoever we
Bible
want.
specifically points out sexual sins the way that it does.
Yeah, it separates it from other sins.
Yep.
I don't believe in shaming somebody for having a past.
Right.
Like most people have had sex before they get married. Most Christians have. Even the best Christians a lot of those have had sex before they get married. But I can't help but notice that there's this let's take away the limits of sexual repression over the course of the last half a century with a terrible correlation of degradation of society.
Yeah.
I mean, we come up with ways to not have to deal with the consequences of your actions, like abortion, and now we're talking about like women are sexual beings, like, and men have always been able to have this. And I remember like when that conversation started happening, like let women be sexual, like this sexual awakening within women. And I'm like, you act like for most of us, this is like men just want to control women's sexuality. It is not. I remember the problem is women were doing the better job overall.
Yeah.
Men were doing bad. And now it's both of us. It's both of us. And like,
so in the Latin culture, it's very true. And like there's a reason why men are kind of known as these kind of scoundrels. And when they're married, they still a lot of times will have like a mistress. Yeah. They'll have a side piece. And the wives a lot of times know it. They're not okay with it, but they know it. And it's considered a normal thing. And I think that is a lot of times true, not specifically to that extent, but I mean, even like Desi Arnaz was known for cheating on Lucy. they're known as the Latin lovers and stuff like that for a reason. However, it's always the men, and it's not acceptable for the women to do that. And I think that is true across the board.
Yeah. Men are statistically more likely to cheat. Like
Right.
there's, I mean, that I can't argue with that statistic. Like it generally is more likely. Like that, not to say that women don't cheat ever. I've actually heard some women say women can't cheat, which is wild to me. Especially if it pertains to like them cheating with like another woman or something like that. That's just
What do they mean
exploring
by
our
they
sexuality.
can't cheat? Like they're not capable, or they don't have time?
It is a view that some hyper feminists have because they
By
put
saying black people can't be racist.
right. It's almost exactly that. It's
So
just
BS, basically.
yeah, it's a load of crap. No,
But I would argue that it is harder for women, I would say, who have younger children to cheat if they're responsible for taking care of the kids, because they're the primary caregiver. And so most of their time is spent with those children. They don't have as many opportunities to be out. And
maybe I will say this: stay-at-home moms are one of the most likely demographics to cheat.
We all three know a person who,
And nurses.
we all three know a person whose wife cheated on him by having men over at the house and letting her children play with the whoever man's
God, that
children.
grosses me out. But so with stay-at-home moms, the reason is resentment brews up within that demographic of women to their husbands more than women who work. Doe has like at times said, "I'd love to be a stay-at-home wife." I'm like, "Nope, you're never doing that. You're gonna.
You gotta stay busy.
You better work. You better build a career.
You don't gotta go to work.
girl boss.
Work. You said you better work like RuPaul.
Work it.
You better work.
But no. And also, I also told her if you didn't work, we wouldn't be able to make ends meet. So like,
Also that.
but yeah, stay-at-home wives and nurses. Apparently, there's like the stigma of promiscuous nurses there's some truth to it.
This is off topic, but y'all
Hospital nurses.
Y'all remember that police woman who was sleeping with the whole rest of the police force?
I do remember this.
Yeah, and she was married.
Isn't that crazy?
I guess that's why it's better for the police women to be lesbian.
Well, at least it was people she knew and not random strangers.
I don't know if her husband felt that way.
I'm sure that he didn't. But it's kind of the same logic of like parents who let their kids party and they're like doing it at their house. They're like, well, at least they're partying at our house and not going off somewhere where they don't have supervision.
Yeah. Right.
It's kind of like, stop being a jackass parent.
She was filling all the rest of the force's nightsticks.
Ooh,
that's gross.
All of their batons.
But she was performing a lot of cavity searches.
She didn't want to be suppressed.
Jack's method of keeping me from cheating is just to feed me snacks and fast food. And
I'm sure he feeds you a big old snack.
Not those kind of snacks. Those snacks.
Big. But anyway, well, I think we've
gotten to the end of this one.
Yeah.
So. I'm sure this one would be one that pissed a lot of people off too. But I don't care.
Honestly, every time someone says purity culture or deconstructing, I just
cringe.
Automatically roll my eyes. Just like insert the little Tony Stark eye roll meme.
I know it. We need to talk about evangelicals at some point because that's.
Oh my gosh.
When I hear evangelical, I mean, oh, you mean not Christian?
Yeah, and they were never Christian. Not really.
Oh, it's so annoying.
But yeah, let me just say, young guys, keep it in your pants, and young girls, keep your legs closed. I'd say that for anybody that's not married, but really, and if you're a Christian, you absolutely must. That is it is a sin. It is laid out for us otherwise. So
I would say to young guys, be a better freaking man.
Yeah.
Like, you be the one that leads.
Be a better man than the generations before you.
Yeah. Be a man that
Yeah.
exhibits self-control.
Yeah.
Because if you don't exhibit self-control there, you might not exhibit self-control in other places that it really
But it is
freaking matters
true.
also.
It is true that sadly, the cycle continues. So boys without fathers tend to be
Yep.
become father, create fatherless children. They
remember, if you don't try to be a man that does this, and you have a daughter one day, and you don't stop the cycle, there will be another man that will treat your daughter exactly the way that you treated somebody else's daughter.
And we cannot live in a world where boys will be boys.
No,
we need men to be men.
Yeah, we need them to be better.
Yeah.
All right, that's my final thoughts.
Same.
Thanks, guys.
Okay.
Thank you for being here.
Anytime.
Of course,
Love
you
to
live
give
here,
my feminine perspective.
but you live here, so
You hold
But
us
you know who-
accountable.
You know who don't live here?
I've got a wife, and I'm gonna
Well,
go
I'm
sleep in the
glad.
same bed as my wife.
I'm glad.
Probably too
does she-
late to have sex right now, though.
Does she want that?
Does she want to be my wife?
No, does she want to have sex with you?
Probably not right now.
Down and down the rabbit hole.